One guy's seen it, the other guy hasn't. First guy's gonna tell the second guy all about it while they both get drunk.
All right, welcome to One Guy's Seen It, the only podcast where one guy has seen the movie, the other guy has not seen the movie, and the first guy is going to try to convince the second guy to see the movie, and if he succeeds, they'll take a break, watch the movie, come back, nerd out about the movie, and decide how many beers you need to enjoy the movie, all while getting progressively more inebriated themselves, because that is what they choose to do with their sentience. But without any further ado, or rigmarole, or hoopla, or ballyhoo, let's get into it. Sumner, give me the skinny. What's going on today? What are we doing? One guy's seen it.
That was beautiful, by the way. What a lovely intro.
Thank you. I'm working on the intro. I feel like it'll get progressively better as we move along here.
Yeah.
Oh wait, we gotta start off with what we're drinking. What are you drinking today?
I'm rocking boxed red wine at the moment.
Jesus Christ. Don't you have any self-respect, boyo?
No, I don't.
None at all?
None whatsoever.
Well, I am rocking a Sierra Nevada hazy little thing IPA.
Oh, fancy.
Yeah, man, I've been back on my IPA kick. You know, I kind of went those couple of years thinking I had a gluten allergy with no real scientific evidence to back up the fact that I thought that I had a gluten allergy. Turns out it's cheese, and it was always cheese. So I am back on my IPA kick.
Yeah, pretty good. I've been drinking those 7% Kirin Light or sake seltzers, and they just fuck my stomach up crazy.
Wait, there are sake seltzers in Japan?
Oh yeah, tons of them.
Holy shit! What will they think of next?
Sake.
Wait, it's like a Kirin Light sake seltzer.
Yeah, it's the same company, or they make beer and sake.
That's pretty badass, man.
Yeah, it's pretty sick, man.
Pretty sick. Yeah, once again, for all of our legions of new listeners out there, Sumner's over in Japan right now. My name is Jeff, by the way. My name is Jeff. I'm in San Antonio, Texas, so we got a crazy time difference here. It's nice and early in the morning for me, and
yeah, it's 1:30
in night owl time for you.
Yeah, it's just about to be 1:30 a.m. for me, and I'm rocking a Red Bull right now to stay awake.
You are a trooper. You are a freaking trooper, man.
Anything I can do for the art of filmmaking, I'm willing to do.
Yes. You know, and I guess we do, you know, when we get to the end of the episode and we give our how many beers do you need to enjoy it rating, I guess we kind of got to think about, you know, percentage of alcohol. Are we just going to decide on like a standardized, like 4%, 5%?
Yeah. We can, the worst something is we can be like, this is 4 bottles of beer, and then this is 4 bottles of wine, and then, you know, like 5 bottles of whiskey in order to enjoy.
Right. If we really want to get crazy at some point, I guess we can do like a scale. Like we'll be like, you know, you need 4 beers or 1 glass of wine or 2 shots. Like we'll just have a scale.
We're already creating such confusing lore for our rating system.
Hey, every great podcast needs confusing lore.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so let's get rolling here. Give me some deets.
So, it's notable for its landmark achievements in sound design as an independent movie with less than $50,000 in the 70s, which was a pretty big deal. And then one of Stanley Kubrick's favorite movies, and he screened it for the cast of The Shining to get them into the right headspace for the movie.
What? What the fuck?
So that
okay.
That kind of tells you everything you need to know about the tone of the movie.
Oh man. Okay.
And after the movie was completed, it became like a big midnight release thing. Like people go and see it at midnight screenings and, you know, freak out or whatever. And so George Lucas approached David Lynch afterwards and asked him if he would like to direct Return of the Jedi.
Whoa.
And David Lynch declined, saying, "It's not for me, George."
And this is Return of the Jedi, right? So we're talking, years into Star Wars super fandom.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was the biggest thing on the planet. David Lynch is just like, nope, I'm good.
Oh,
Not
man.
interested.
Mega balls. That's... Okay. All right. Yeah, you've already sold me. Wait, so we're talking 1977, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess these screenings at the time, like, what were they like? I mean, I guess what else do you have to do in 1977 other than go to movie screenings? Like, what is the vibe at one of these? Like, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it's very midnight horror crowd. People that would go and see, weird stuff that you wouldn't be able to see during the day. And it was such like an indie underground thing, and it just kind of grew from word of mouth, and everybody heard about it, and then it became probably, I would claim it was probably the most influential independent movie ever made, just because of David Lynch's influence and just how weird he was too. There was just nothing. I still don't think there's anything like David Lynch out there. And
God, see, just like imagine the type of people that you would meet at stuff like this. Like, imagine the stories you would walk away with. Like, I just wish this shit still happened. I mean, maybe it does, and I just don't know about it. But I feel like it'd be like going to a really cool, like, underground punk show,
Yeah.
Just like you'd meet the same types of people.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely the vibe, too. It was just very countercultural and against whatever, the norm was at the time. But the interesting thing is that Mel Brooks went to one of these late-night screenings and just thought that David Lynch was really unique and had an interesting vision, and he ended up hiring him to do The Elephant Man, which he did agree to do. I don't know if you know The Elephant Man.
Not a fucking clue.
Well, it's that...
Add it to the list.
It's a movie with Anthony Hopkins, and like the main character has elephantitis, and he has this really famous quote at the end of the movie. He's like, "I am not an animal."
This sounds awesome.
Yeah, it gets thrown around sometimes, but yeah, it's a good movie.
I'd watch Anthony Hopkins in anything, so yeah, I'm all about it.
Well, anyway, I'll give you the plot details real quick, and then we can
Yay!
We can get started. Dude,
I'm so ready for this movie to ruin my day. I'm so ready.
Oh, it definitely will. I'm so excited. Okay, so plot: Henry Spencer tries to survive his industrial environment, his angry girlfriend, and the unbearable screams of his newly born mutant child.
That's it?
Yep, that's it.
Dear God.
That's all you need to know.
See, and now all I can think about right now is that weird image of David Lynch that you generated with OpenAI.
Yeah, ChatGPT AI generated image of David
I forgot,
Lynch.
What did you type in as the prompt? Because that shit was fucking terrifying.
David Lynch hiding in your basement. And it didn't
so for
disappoint.
anybody out there who wants nightmares, just pull up one of these. There's got to be a million of these AI image generators at this point. just do David Lynch. What is it? David Lynch in your basement?
Yeah, David
hiding
Lynch
in your basement.
I think I put casually hiding in your basement.
See, what's so fucked up is all these image generators still can't do faces very well, so it just makes it that much more terrifying.
Yeah, he's got one eye,
like
like his tongue's hanging out or something.
Here, we'll make that photo the cover art for this episode.
That'd be perfect. I think that summarizes this movie pretty well. So the movie's called Eraserhead. And
Eraserhead. I've heard the name a million times.
Yeah, it's got its own like subculture, and it's quintessentially David Lynch. So if there was never ever a movie to watch of David Lynch's, I think this is the one. Pretty much sums him up pretty well.
Awesome. I mean, my body is ready. Is there any more extra super interesting trivia or shit that people that have seen it might want to know?
I think it's really influential for its sound design, which is kind of, like, it seems minor, but it was a big deal at the time. With his idea for sound was more of soundscapes and less about action dictating what was going on with the sound. Like, like in sound, like you pick something up and drop it, like that's a direct sound thing, but his whole soundscape is just about the environment and the atmosphere and, hearing cars and, industry in the background and all little detail things. And hearing pipes and a really old sounding. It gives it a sense of immersion that I don't think was really looked at as, something that people were really thinking about at the time in terms of sound. So I think it's really interesting for the way it uses sound.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I mean, we've talked about how fucking important soundtracks are to me in really carrying a movie. So if it's known for that, I am super pumped.
Yeah, and the visuals are amazing for such a low budget movie too. I'm really impressed with what they were able to get. And then the surreal comedy part of it, there's I don't want to give too much away, but it's surprisingly funny in parts.
Dude, okay, yeah, well, and that's the thing. Like, if your job here was to convince me to see it, I mean, I think you've succeeded, because I also feel like I can't hang out with anybody cool now without knowing about this movie.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be the one guy, like, standing around like the bonfire who hasn't seen Eraserhead. So,
yeah. I was reading a Reddit thing too, just a little while ago before we started, and there was this film student from USC talking about it, and he was like, David Lynch is just one of those guys that's just not cool anymore. All the film students are like, oh, he's good, but he's no Boonwell for a surreal comedy. It was just the most like cringy fucking thing I ever read.
So wait, so let me ask you this: David Lynch is still alive, right?
Oh yeah, he's still around. He actually did a podcast for 5 years called The Weather Report, and every episode was a minute long, and he would just read the weather in LA, and that was it. That was his whole podcast.
God, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
So if he's still alive, and this is how film students are talking about him, it just further validates one of my favorite quotes, which is, "You either live long." Wait, let me not fuck this up. You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And from what you're telling me, it sounds like that's what's going on with David Lynch. Like, you can be so influential and off the wall that it's just not cool anymore when it becomes mainstream. I guess that's happened to anything counterculture that becomes mainstream, right? Then the new generation of hipsters refuse to accept it as cool.
Yeah, which to me is so, like, you're just begging to be made fun of. Like, you're too hipster for David Lynch. I've never heard of anything like that.
Yeah, it's absurd at some point. Like, what's that really good grunge documentary that came out recently? You know what I'm talking about?
Was it Hype?
Hype, yeah. Like, I had no idea how extensive the commercialization of grunge became, like toward the end of the late 90s, early 2000s. Like, the Baby Gap grunge clothes.
Oh,
and
yeah.
shit. Like, I mean, how do you, like, I feel bad for Washingtonians, for Seattleans? Seattleonians, that's got to be what it is.
Yeah.
Like,
that had to be the most pathetic thing to witness, just being like this cool underground movement, and then it's just completely usurped by the masses. There's got to be nothing more frustrating than that.
Yeah, like you can't deny that the same shit that film students are saying about David Lynch, music students would be saying about Kurt Cobain if he was still around.
Yeah.
But he died a hero.
He died.
So he didn't live long enough to see himself become the villain.
Yeah.
And now he's a legend. So, Sumner, if the moral of the story is, if we ever do anything significant, like if this podcast takes off, we have to find some way to die in, like, an epic, like, like, we have to.
Bigger than a shotgun to the face.
Yeah, no, that's a little dark. It's got to be something crazy and interesting. But I mean, the point remains.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think I've been successfully convinced to watch this movie. Should we do it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so for anybody listening, spoilers are on the way. I wish I would have said that in the last episode. You're gonna hear a little beautiful 3-second trumpet solo and then spoilers will be on the way. You've been listening to One Guy's Seen It. I'm Jeff. This is Sumner. We're gonna go watch this movie. Okay. So we are back with dude, what the fuck, man?
Yep.
Eraserhead. So look, man, I don't know much about like David Lynch standards. I really had no idea what to expect going in. What the fuck did I just watch?
That's David Lynch incarnate. That's him as in his purest form.
You said it was quintessential Lynch?
Yeah, I think this is the most David Lynch movie there is. Yeah, it's hard to explain because like I feel like he just came right out of the gate and was like, I'm just gonna make exactly what I want to make, and I'm not gonna worry about anything else regarding it.
Yeah, can I give you my kind of like initial overall impressions?
Yeah, please.
About things. Okay, so man, so how it kind of came off to me, I feel like I look at the whole movie as, and totally correct me if I'm wrong, because I feel like I'm imagining that in his with Lynch's fan base and with how people watch his movies, that everybody can kind of receive certain elements of it a certain way or interpret things a certain way. To me, it almost felt like, and especially the first half of the movie, things get a little more cerebral toward the end, but like it felt like he was sort of expressing how he feels on the inside when he's in like mundane situations, right? Yeah. It's like, oh man, like this is like obviously the beginning of the movie. There's all this sort of making you wait for mundane stuff, all just to build suspense, right? Like just like the elevator door at the beginning taking forever, and like the neighbor taking like 30 seconds to close her door really slowly, right? So it's like all these things building suspense. But like my favorite scene in the whole movie was when he first when Henry first shows up at, I can't even remember his ex's name. I don't know if they ever said her name. Do you remember?
Oh, Mary.
So yeah, so like when he first gets to their house, that whole scene at their house was amazing. Like I loved it. Like Bill, the dad was great. His lines were awesome. But
he's like, I've been working on plumbing for 20 years.
I put every pipe in this neighborhood.
The chickens are small chickens. They're the damnedest things.
Dude, yeah, that was.
Look at my knees.
look at these knees. You never even get to see his knees. I was really disappointed. Yeah. But
yeah, he's my favorite character, I think.
He was the bomb. I actually have in my notes. Yeah, Bill the dad stole my heart. Like he was, he won the movie for me. But but that whole scene, it's like every element of it, from when he's first like sitting down on the couch and his clothes are like suddenly too tight and he can't get comfortable on the couch. And like like Mary has like a miniature seizure while she's talking to the mom.
Yeah, she like just starts freaking out, and then she like starts brushing her hair, and then it just kind of goes away and is never addressed, never like talked about.
I sort of took that as like every element of this scene, right? It was like each mundane thing that you might experience as him in that situation was
like meeting the in-laws or
meeting the in-laws, right? And meeting the mom, like. And let's say, so here's how I took it. It's like each part of his experience meeting the in-laws, like every part of it that would have been awkward or uncomfortable or intense in a regular situation was like blown way out of proportion with really weird shit. Like her having that seizure and it not really being addressed, and then her mom having the same type of seizure while they're sitting down eating when he starts cutting the chicken. It's like stuff that, you know, you can imagine you being at an in-law's house and the mother getting uncomfortable about something and having to leave the room, right? Like that happens all the time, but not in this way. Like super fucking weird and blown out of proportion, and like I'm rambling, but like I loved the in-laws scene. It was really cool.
Yeah, because she, I think that's probably the most famous scene in the movie, where she's at the table and he starts cutting into the chicken and then it starts oozing out the, red pus, like blood looking stuff. And then she just goes into like a trance almost and is like looking at the ceiling and doesn't know what's happening. And then she snaps back to reality and starts crying. And then Bill's like, she'll be all right in a minute.
Yeah, she'll be all right.
It's the strangest thing. And it's like, there's moments in that movie too. It's like, it's so weird and surreal and kind of horrific. And then there'll just be a moment that'll make you laugh out loud.
Yeah.
Because it's so unexpected.
Yeah, and what that achieved for me is that, like, so each crazy thing that happened in that experience for him that made him feel a certain way, it's like even if those things were more mundane, they would have still made him feel that way. It's like even if the chicken hadn't been bleeding and the mom hadn't had this weird like orgasmic seizure, if she had just freaked out about like, let's say he, accidentally cut the tablecloth or something with a knife and she got really upset and left the room, it still would have made the average person uncomfortable in that situation in the same way that what happened made him uncomfortable. But like his crazy fucking frame of reference, it has the same effect on him. You know what I mean? That I couldn't let that go. That was really interesting to me.
Yeah, there's definitely like a heightened reality because a lot of things are from his point of view and his own like twisted psychology, which gets deeper and deeper.
Yeah, man. Yeah, well, and it sucks because like there are all these things individual things that I want to talk about. Like we got to talk about the show in his radiator, right? That sort of elevates into this woman with the weird. And I was curious too because I kept noticing the picture frame in his room of the atomic explosion, right?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that too because that was something I didn't notice the first time I watched it. So he's on his little night table next to the bed. He has like a plant coming out, but it's not potted. There's just the soil on top of the dresser or little night table.
Yeah, what the fuck is up with all the foliage in his room? Like, what is going on?
Yeah, there's like a weird element of like Earth swallowing him whole kind of thing. Like it just seems like there's grass and foliage in places like it shouldn't be, like in an apartment or an industrial area. Like it just doesn't make any sense logically, but he's like surrounded by it for some reason.
Yeah, and so help me out with this. I mean, it seemed like so the whole show in his radiator, right? It's him. Mm-hmm. It's him trying to escape reality, seeing this place start to unfold. And with this chick with I'm gonna go ahead and call the weird worm things that are showing up. They look kind of like sperm. That's sort of okay. That's what they're supposed to be, right? Like
well, I mean,
it doesn't really matter. It doesn't. Yeah, whatever it is, it's the thing that's because the terrifyingly ugly mutant baby is really just like representing an unwanted pregnancy, right? And like how quickly it can change your life and affect your relationship.
Like a failed aborted fetus of some kind.
Yeah, like it just making otherwise normal things incredibly uncomfortable and disturbing and gross.
There's something too with the timeline that I think is really bizarre because he comes over to the dinner scene and then they have their weird interaction at the table, and then the mom pulls him aside and tells him, like, did you have sexual intercourse with Mary? And he's really uncomfortable. He doesn't want to answer the question.
Yeah.
And then Mary comes up and is like, Mother, don't tell him. And she's just out of nowhere just blurts out that there's a baby. It's premature, but there's a baby at the hospital. And it just like
she tries to fuck him
like
first.
Which is really bizarre. Like I don't know why that's there. But yeah, there's a weird thing where like the mom seems to be mentally ill also. Like there's like something up with her, like because she jumps in and out of these weird trances and fixations. And there's that scene too where she's just making dinner and it's like really inconsequential, but the grandma's sitting in there smoking the cigarette. And then she like takes the grandma's arms and stirs the salad with her arms.
Yeah, fucking super bizarre.
it's just a detail that I don't know why it's in there, and it's a long, drawn out, probably 2-minute scene of just her doing this thing.
Well, and it's all to create this world, right? That like every family's kind of fucked up, and when you decide to, or I guess when sort of you end up in a situation where you're gonna have a family with somebody, like this is how weird things can be, and you're inheriting all of the weirdness of that family, whether you want to or not. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was trying to make sense of it.
That all her family's eccentricities, that's like a part of the baby now. Like that's part of
that's what it was,
thing.
right? That's what it was.
Yeah, it feels like that to me, but I mean, that's the thing too, is like you can look at this so many different ways, and like you can be in a different frame of mind and have completely different conclusions. I think that's one of the things that's interesting about the movie.
Oh, man.
But yeah, so they have that scene where she like tells him that the baby's there, which timeline wise he says he's on vacation, and
yeah,
they couldn't have known each other that long, so there's this weird like nightmarish, like no logic seems to like make its way in. Like it all seems to be like some weird nightmare about him having a baby, but there are elements where you like question whether it's a nightmare, or if it's real, or if it's just heightened reality. It's a lot of different elements to it.
Yeah, I let go of any attachment to logic really early on. In the movie.
Yeah, I think as soon as you get to the dinner scene, it's pretty much all gone from there. You're like, oh, okay, this is what we're in for.
Yeah, like, so what I thought was interesting too, there was one part where, you know, when the neighbor comes over and he sleeps with the neighbor, right? And you got the infidelity situation going on. It was trippy how the bed sort of turned into this sinking hot tub thing, right? And as they sink into it, he's back in the play. And so it's like, it's almost, that was just another form of escape for him, right?
Yeah, and you know, it's funny you say that, because that's the vibe I got this time too. So the lady in the radiator, I've heard interpretations that she's like a symbol of like hope, and she's like bathed in like white light behind her, while everything else in the movie is really dark. And but yeah, this time she wasn't so much a symbol of hope as like she's like, if you escape, like you have like this, you'll be free of all your worries and insecurities and fears, the world, because it's his fears and the fears for his baby, which is why I think like the nuclear bomb above the bed has some significance. It's like people say, like, you know, I don't want to bring in a child into the world where, you know, like the unpotted plant next to the bed too, it's like the nature's crumbling, there's atomic warfare that could hanging over people's heads. Like I feel like those are elements of like fears that he's bringing a child into this world also.
Yeah.
It's kind of thin, but I got like a
I don't think
it's
very I don't think it's very thin. I think it's probably pretty on the nose. Like those are some serious fucked up themes going on there.
Yeah, because initially when he comes home, when Mary's taking care of the baby, he's like staring at his radiator. He's like glued to the radiator when he comes home, and it's just, you see the little light come out from the radiator, and there's not much more to it. And then she comes back later and is stepping on the little fetuses, like that's his way out. Is like kind of alluding to the end of the movie a bit.
Yeah, and I think the fact that she's got these, you know, potentially nuclear radiation infused cheeks, sort of showing that even though she is your escape, it's not perfect. Like she's fucked up too. Yeah. Like there's no perfectly pure way out of this. I don't know,
nobody's
man.
Unscathed.
That was quite a way to start the day.
Yeah, I forget it's the morning for you. It's like,
that's what I'm saying, dude. There's a lot of risk for me every time we jump into one of these one guy's seen it's, because this is going to determine the course of my day.
Yeah, I wanted to come out of the gate swinging on the second episode. I'm like, you know what, we're just going to go right into it. But every time I see the lady in the radiator, it just she's got like weird asbestos cheeks. I just want to like someone to like pop them. Like, just like pop them. The
natural Speaking of popping, man, yeah, the various the various forms of liquid throughout this movie and various viscosities. Like I never, dude. I mean, horrible movie to eat a bean and cheese taco while watching. Like I got 2 bites in and I was like, this is not fucking happening.
Yeah, and the baby too is so grotesque looking, and it's so unsettling because the baby's cries are David Lynch's daughter's cries.
Oh, what?
So it's a real baby, like the sound effect, which makes it so much more uncomfortable and unsettling to me.
Ugh. Yeah, like I had to convince myself that it was like a baby dinosaur just to be able to get through the movie because it was so fucking hard to look at.
Yeah, and it creates this sense like it's so grotesque, but it's like it's so innocent at the same time too. Like you feel just bad. You just feel bad for everybody involved.
Yeah. There wasn't really a happy moment. I think that's why I love the the whole dinner with the in-laws. You know, you at least had some light situational comic relief, and then it was just spiraling into madness and despair.
Yeah, one of my favorite scenes in the movie is trying to think.
Dude, fuck that baby. It starts cackling after he fails his failed attempt to get back with the neighbor. It just laughs at him. What the fuck, man?
And it's like, and she has like a moment where she's staring at him, and then his head turns into the baby. And I was like, I wrote down too. I was like, it's like his only form of escape was this woman across the hall that he was having an affair with, and then all she sees him as is this baby, like keeping him from escaping out of this room where he's just locked in his own fears and psychological anxieties, and you know the burden of having to care for this child who cries every time he leaves the room.
Yeah, that was okay. Yeah, that was another moment of slight comic relief. That was cool. But like, dude, so okay, so like, you know, the last, I guess it's like the second to last time he's kind of back in with the radiator lady, you know, and tell me if I'm wrong, if I was interpreting this in the wrong way, but he has this moment where she sings this awesome Heaven song, which is gonna be stuck in my head all day. Was that Bowie?
No, I think it was made originally for the movie.
Oh, that's cool. That's really.
But,
how did you say Bowie was involved?
I don't think he was.
Oh,
involved.
Did I imagine you saying that? Maybe I completely imagined that.
Maybe we're talking about something else. But that song has kind of lived on in infamy. You know the Pixies, "Where's My Mind" from Fight Club. They do that song all the time in their shows. Like it's kind of almost as famous as the movie.
You know, that's really funny you say that because the whole time I was watching it, just Henry's overall like aesthetic, his pencil pushing coat and like his hair, I was thinking about the Pixies and like what's the other Misfits. He kind of looked like the lead singer of the Misfits to me. And it's just funny. I was thinking about those bands. That's crazy.
It feels like a whole aesthetic too because they did that album Doolittle, the Pixies did, and it's all like industrial grunge rock. And it's got that vibe to it that feels like this movie. Yeah,
did they have a song called Eraserhead? I feel like somebody made a song with the same title. Like, I might be wrong.
Yeah, no, I think so. It's entered into the zeitgeist in such a weird way. And like I was saying earlier, like it influenced Stanley Kubrick's The Shining a lot because he said that this is like one of his favorite movies of all time.
That's fucking crazy. Like I'm glad
really high praise.
I'm glad that you said that before I watched it because I kept putting myself in their shoes and I was like I can totally see how this would put me in the right headspace for The Shining. Like that's fucking crazy. So the second to last time that he's kind of in that the sort of radiator play with the radiator lady when she kind of decapitates him. Like, because it's the first time that she sort of shows him the light, right? And that she could be the escape. And then he gets decapitated by the baby that returns. And it's just showing him there's really no escape from his choices, right? Like,
yeah, because she like shows him like, you know, this is this white light and this freedom and this just bliss if you escape. And then he's immediately confronted with all the things he's worried about. There's that big tree with just the soil all around it. And then, his head pops off and the baby comes out. It's very nightmarish imagery, but it makes me laugh every time. And I don't know if it means I'm a crazy person or it's just like, it's just the fact that it's set up like a play, and it's like some modern art piece. Like I'm just imagining somebody at an art show just showing this off, the baby screaming and then the severed head on the floor with all the blood around it. It comes off as comical to me. Maybe it's just because it's so horrifying that I can't.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to take it seriously.
Respond.
And you've got Yoko Ono screaming her art in the corner as the soundtrack.
One of my favorite scenes too is so there's that jump scare where he's like trying to leave the house, but he can't because the baby keeps crying, and you walk out and the baby will stop and then he'll go again and the baby will cry again, and then he like takes the temperature of the baby, and he's like, oh, everything seems to be fine. Turns around and immediately the baby's like covered in like smallpox or measles or something.
Yeah. Oh, you're sick.
Oh, you are sick. It's one of the funniest moments of the film, but it's like, it's also really disturbing too.
Yeah.
As a parent, like it would be, I'm sure that's very real emotion you feel all the time taking care of a baby.
Dude, I don't know how I'm going to continue with my day. I don't know what to do now. Like, I feel bad because Kaylee was next to me kind of watching. I warned her. I was like, man, Sumner said you're going to hate every second of this movie. And she like, we got maybe 20, 30 minutes into it. She was like, oh, yeah, I gotta do something. She like just started working. Like,
yeah, that's fair. This is, dude, this is not for everybody.
I gotta say though, like, I completely understand why it was so influential and why it had the impact that it did. I mean, it was a car wreck that I could not turn away from.
Yeah, and I think the thing too is like there have been tons of imitators of Lynch's style, but there's nothing that could. There's no point in film history where you could point like, oh, that's something that's going to happen at some point. Like somebody's going to come up with this. It is so totally his own vision, and I think that's one of the things that's at least valuable about what he does. Is that nobody else is doing it, or at least he created the template for surreal, like movies in a popular way, because they've existed for a long time, but not in a mainstream way.
Yeah, I feel that. Wait, so take me back a little bit. Like I really tried to, as soon as it was over, I tried to go back to the intro and try to piece together. Sort of. So I mean, help me out here with the sickly dude pulling the levers. Kind of how I sort of processed it was that you start off the movie kind of inside his mind a little bit, and is it sort of creating the world by putting this like sickly fucked up version of him inside his own mind that's just pulling the levers? Is that just like creating his sense of reality at the beginning of the movie? Like, what the fuck is going on there, man?
I had a feeling that it was like it's like a symbol of like his darker impulses, and it was a thing that led to the baby being created in the first place. Like when he pulls a lever. Well, I should explain what I mean, but so it's a scene of him floating. Like that's the first shot of the movie is his head floating in like space, it seems like, and there's just this weird rock behind him, and you have no sense of what's going on. It feels very 2001: A Space Odyssey, like you're just trapped in space. And then he opens his mouth at some point, and this little like fetus sperm thing like falls out of his mouth, and then the guy pulls the lever and it falls into like this pool of like mercury water. It's really weird looking.
Yeah.
And I in my mind, I feel like he's like the thing that allowed the baby to become, and it's like all his dark impulses, like his infidelity and his, eventual decision to kill the baby at the end. It's all his, repressed emotions and feelings. And it eventually comes out in him, giving up and just killing the baby.
God damn.
Yeah, and it's not a very happy movie.
God. Okay. Yeah. So, and that was something I was gonna say too. Like, I mean, is there anything else you wanna, any other themes or anything you want to tackle on this? Because I think I'm ready to give it my score.
Well, I do want to talk about which may be my favorite scene in the movie, and it is definitely the hardest to wrap your head around. Which is funny because I think it's like the most straightforward scene in the movie. But so after the scene with the play and like, you know, the head popping off and the blood and everything, his head just falls through nothingness onto the pavement, and this kid picks it up, and you know it turns out later that he's having a dream or a nightmare or something.
Right.
And he walks into the office, and this guy is just sitting behind the desk, and he sees this kid walk in with a severed head, and he just starts ringing the bell.
That shit
like crazy.
was awesome. It was so good.
And the guy walks in, he's like, "Okay, Paul." Easily one of my favorite quotes in the entire movie. And then, and then they take him into the back. He's like, "Oh, we can do something with this." And then he, his like head is open, and I couldn't really tell because it's not like conveyed visually very, it's like not very obvious what they're doing.
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah, go ahead.
And I think what they're doing is they're taking bits of his brain and making erasers out of it.
Okay, that is also what I gathered from it.
Yeah, and then they put it on the little pencils, and then he erases with it, and he's like, "All good." And then he just the little eraser shreds he just throws off the table, and then it creates that like spores look to it.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because it's kind of a callback to the very end, like after the baby, you know, starts getting all elongated and going crazy and becoming like a monster in his room. It's a shot of him just staring out, and all the little like spore things are behind his head, like, and he's just staring out into the distance. And I don't know if that's meant to be connected, but I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, that was a highlight.
Like his fractured mind or sense of self or something.
Yeah, that's kind of how it came across to me too. Like that his, you know, like his mind, like even if you take these pieces of his mind, they're just, man, there's almost like what's the word, like almost like meaninglessness in that scene, right? That like.
Yeah.
The way that he's perceiving everything, it means nothing. Like it's being extracted from his mind and just turned into an eraser and then used and thrown away. Like his existence is meaningless. His unique perception of everything is meaningless. And
yeah, exactly. All his worries and fears and everything he's feeling are just worthless in the grand scheme of things.
Yes, that's how I perceive that scene. But I'm so glad that I was struggling too to see if it was being extracted, if it was like brain matter being extracted. But I feel like the fact that we both kind of saw it the same way means it, like, the scene did its job.
Yeah, and it's and the thing too with the visuals is everything falls into these really harsh shadows. So, which is an intentional thing that David Lynch did to create this atmosphere of you don't really, like, visually you don't know what's going on all the time either. You have to fill in the gaps yourself to a degree.
Yeah, man. That was quite an introduction into the world of David Lynch for me.
Yeah, I'll never make you watch another David Lynch film unless you have any interest.
No, hey, dude, that's what One Guy's Seen It is all about, you know? This is the kind of weird. Let's see, what I hope we can do with this show is you know, obscure movies, popular movies. We'll find a nice balance. But yeah, you got to keep bringing me this weird ass shit, man. I need to experience. I need to experience it all.
I've been trying to keep them too. Like, it's hard to find movies that I want to show you that are under like 2 hours long, because I want to keep it like we can, like, you know, watch it and talk about it and have like enough time and everything. But yeah, I think this fits the bill perfectly. It's just one of those movies that like needs to be talked about in order for you to be able to like put it to bed and be like, stop thinking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I don't know about you. I'm ready to give my score.
I did want to ask one thing, like, about the sound design, just real quick.
Oh yeah, we didn't even touch on that. Yeah, I really loved it. It sort of, it achieved the same thing in a weird way that silent films that I've seen have done, which is like when there is no audio, it makes me focus so much more on what I'm seeing. I almost liked that because of the whole soundscape nature, especially in a lot of the early scenes, it made me, it was almost a relief to hear dialogue, and it made some of the early lines that were there that much more impactful, which I thought was really interesting. Like the soundscape nature of it puts you in this world, and it makes everything seem a little fantastic. And then as soon as someone starts speaking, you're like back into reality. And I think it created a great insight into how his mind is experiencing this reality, which is like as soon as someone starts talking to him, everything calms down and it's normal. But when no one's talking to him, he's just hearing this crazy fucking weird soundscape of reality. I thought the music was really cool. Not necessarily just the music, but just the, like you said, the soundscape nature of it. I've never really heard a movie that sounded like that.
Yeah, and I think you're right too. I think it's like kind of a window into his mind, even more than the visuals that you're saying. It just envelops you in such a way, and it was really like ahead of its time in terms of using sound in that way, because relatively low budget. I mean, like shot for I think less than $50,000 over the course of
crazy.
5 years. And the cool thing about it too is like they all worked in a very tight knit community. Like Jack Nance, the guy that plays Henry, his wife is actually Mary in the movie. That's his actual wife, and she worked really closely on the movie too. And she helped with crew work and providing food for people. And the cool thing about David Lynch is like it took all that time, and he got grants every so often, but he would always pay everybody that was working on the movie no matter what. And even at the end of it, and they were like, it's, don't know if anything's going to happen with it, but he gave everybody that worked on the crew like a percentage points in the overall gross if anything ever happened to it.
Oh, that's really cool, man.
Yeah, and the lady was saying they still get checks to this day for Eraserhead, which I think is really cool. It's a really nice thing to do.
That's badass. When you've got a group of people, everybody believes in the vision, everybody's committed to it. That's the one thing. It's like when you told me it was made over the course of 5 years, I was really worried it was going to be a little disconnected and that was sort of going to be more obvious. But it was a unified vision all the way through. Like I would have not believed you if you told me it took 5 years to pull that off.
Yeah, there was a lot of talent from cinematography to direction to even the weird acting that's going on. Like it's just it's
Bill still stole my heart, man. He was the highlight for me.
Yeah, he's an amazing. I get reminded of Norm Macdonald every time he talks. I don't know what it is. There's just something about the cadence in his voice.
Yeah, honestly, you're talking about your favorite scene. I think my favorite scene in the whole freaking movie was toward the end of that dinner scene where he's just smiling at him. He's like, so, I forget what he says. He's like, so what do you do? He's like, well, I don't do much of anything. And then there's this whole like 30-second scene where he's just smiling at him. And there's that shot from Henry's perspective, and it's Bill smiling at him, and then his soon-to-be wife opens the door, and she's just looking at them both, just crying in the background, and it just holds on that shot. Like, it was so good. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and it's just like, it's shots like that are, it's weird. It crosses a barrier in from horrifying to hilarious, and I don't know what that is, but there's just something about the way he frames things that just, it makes me laugh uncontrollably sometimes. And I don't know if that's a way to deal with what I'm seeing or what it is, but
I think it is, and it needs that. The audience needs that so badly.
Yeah. It provides a levity, which I feel like could have been really dull if it was just very like, there's so many movies that you watch that are trying to be abstract and surrealist, and they're just very one note. They're like, look at the grandeur of what I'm doing, and there's like no humor, there's no humanity to it, and I think this is like a version of that's like actually palatable.
Yeah,
like you can wrap your head around, because there's human things going on, even though they're really exaggerated and bizarre.
Right, and it's comic relief in the most literal sense, in that you are so relieved to not be freaked out for 5 seconds.
Yeah, it's Yeah, it's a great movie. It's not for everybody though.
Yeah, man, you did not pull any punches at all with episode 2 of One Guy's Seen It. So
Got to come out of the gate swinging.
dude, you swung away. So here's my, at the end of each one of these episodes, we're gonna do a, how many beers do you need to enjoy this movie? So I think with a movie like this, and maybe it's this way with every David Lynch movie, I don't know that there's any number of beers that are going to make this movie more palatable. I think you're either gonna love it or you're gonna fucking hate it. And
Yeah.
And what's funny is I say that now, but I think I'm somewhere in the middle. Like,
Yeah. Right at
let me put it this
like
way.
a 2.5 or 3.
Yeah. Like I love that I can appreciate it. I am so grateful that I have the choice and the freedom to never have to watch it ever again.
Yep.
That's where I'm at.
Right.
So I guess I would give it on a scale of 1 to 5 beers. I guess I'm gonna have to give it right in the middle of 2.5 beers to watch this movie. That's my score.
Yeah, I would give it a I would give it a solid 3. I think you need at least 3. If you go back and rewatch it, I think you can wrap your head around it a little easier, and I would give it like a 2. So
I can't
right where you are. 2.5.
Man, yeah. I mean, I can't. Kudos to you for getting through it again just for me. That is a sacrifice.
Yeah, I was even watching it, and I told Andy we were going to do this episode, and she was like, well, I'll rewatch it with you. It's like, I thought you hated it. He's like, well, I don't know.
Yeah, so
watch it again.
maybe that's the thing. Maybe going back and watching, knowing what's coming, it might be easier to digest. I think I just felt so like I was falling into a void the whole time that I just couldn't wait for the relief of it to be over.
Yeah, and that was the thing too, is like coming at it from like just watching it again, I don't know if it would have been as enjoyable, but coming at it from a perspective like to analyze it, to be able to talk about it in a logical way, I think it was much more enjoyable.
Yeah, fucking man. All right. Well, episode 2 of One Guy's Seen It. I wouldn't say it's been a pleasure, but
yeah, that's fair.
But goddamn, I love doing this podcast with you.
Yeah, that's a fun one, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to live up to this hype again.
Hey, I'm excited. I'm excited for whatever you got next week, man. We got to keep this train rolling.
Yeah, I got a couple. I've got some cooking.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, okay, that's it for this week's episode of One Guy's Seen It. Follow us on all the social media that probably still doesn't exist yet. And what's our catchphrase to end every episode? Remember, every movie is better with at least one beer.
At least one beer. That's gonna be my challenge every week, is trying to remember what the catchphrase is.
Yeah. I almost lost that. That was it, right? That was what we came up with.
Yeah, that's it.
We just have to figure out a way to say it at the exact same time.
I'll get better at it.
Yeah, dude. All right. Well, that's it. I love you, buddy. Until next week.
I love you too. Till next week. I got something even better.
Ooh.
Probably.
All right.
One guy's seen it, the other guy hasn't. First guy's gonna tell the second guy all about it while they both get drunk.
One guy's seen it, the other guy hasn't.
First guy's gonna tell the second guy all about it while they both get drunk.
Me.